This is important stuff
for you to know.
Welcome to the show. This is Tony.
And this is Javier.
This is the show where we talk about what we believe may be important stuff.
But in the end, it's for you to decide.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. Javier, I want to bring up another point that is very important to a lot of people, a lot of baby boomers. Retirement. You know, I find so much focus these days on people preparing for a financial plan towards retirement to make sure they're funded enough. But many times I've found that's obscuring their experience plan. They're forgetting to prepare for retirement by living their life in preparation for retirement. How do you see retirement?
Well, I mean, there's some factors that we have to take into account today that maybe were not relevant some years back. You know, baby boomers are a generation that is enjoying the benefits of a lot of technological advances, especially in medicine. Baby boomers in general are now more concerned about exercising and dieting and maybe not smoking, drinking less than maybe their parents did. The result of that is that the life expectancy of that generation is much longer than it used to be. And they don't realize that if they're thinking about retiring at 65, maybe 100 years ago, a person of 65 was already considered an older person, a very old person. Now, a person of 65, because of all these advances in medicine and exercising and dieting and so on, are still in excellent physical and mental condition. So if they plan to save money so they could live until they were 80, well, they're going to be running out of money at 80 because they will probably be living closer to 90. Mm-hmm. And they did not take advantage of their health and of their still mental capacity to contribute more to their safety net. I mean, they could still be productive into the late 70s and even 80s. I mean, how old is, what's his name, the guy from Oregon, the multimillionaire?
Bill Gates?
No.
Warren Buffett?
Warren Buffett. I mean, I think Warren Buffett is past 80, probably.
I'm not sure
no?
how old he
okay.
is. But probably close.
Okay. So, and he's still very productive and very successful investing and managing his companies, you know, Berkshire Hathaway and so on. So, you know, that's something that you have to consider. That you cannot think of retiring at 65 thinking that you're going to have enough until you get to be 80, because you could be well into the 80s or even 90s. And they're now talking about probably within the next 50 years that people will be reaching 100 years. It will not be something unusual. So that's one consideration that I think is relevant before we go on in the discussion.
Yeah, a lot of people are retiring even well before 65, 55, 59, 60, 62. And they're retiring from their primary source of employment or income, whether they own the company or work for someone else. They're retiring after a long period of service. When they reach that point of retiring, what does that mean for them? Is life now ending and winding down? What are the keys here that they should be looking at suddenly with retirement? I see retirement as a period of enlightenment.
It should be. It should be. I think, you know, people who think about retirement, they see it as a moment or a time of their life where they are not going to work anymore and enjoy the benefits of what they have. But they're making a very important assumption that there will be no calamity and there will not be any catastrophic event in that period that could evaporate their safety net. They're counting that nothing is going to happen. And if we look at history, you will see that we have had many crashes in the last 100 years, 80 years. I mean, we had the crash of 29, before there was another one. We had in the 80s, then we had the dot-com
bubble burst,
bubble in 2000, then we had 2008. And they're not that space. I mean, they keep recurring. And one of those catastrophic events can destroy the plans of anybody who was thinking of enjoying the benefits of a reasonable safety net. My concern is that, number one, they are still in good condition. They are still productive. They're going to live longer than they thought. And that talent that they have, even if they're not physically as they were when they were 40 or 50, but today, with the advances of technology, you can work out of your house and you can still create companies and do things without having to travel or to move to many places. Okay, so you can do it from your house. I mean, we know that we have seen cases of many people who working out of the homes have created, new fortunes, new companies, and somebody has been writing and lecturing about what he calls the cognitive surplus. There's a lot of talent out there that is not being used, of people of the baby boomer and even generations before them.
What's the cognitive surplus?
People who are, for example, somebody who's sitting in a computer. The computer is on. Maybe he's waiting to download some page that he's visiting, and he and his team, they took the trouble of adding up what they consider the number of people that at one point in time are sitting in front of the computer and how long they stay idle looking at the computer, even if it's seconds. But when you add those seconds, that are being wasted by everybody, it's in terms of man hours, it's a huge number, which could be used to the benefit of society and for themselves. So the term that he coined is cognitive surplus. Now they're doing a lot of things. They're trying to motivate people to do productive things even when they're idle. And that's another point that is very interesting, and I would encourage people to read about cognitive surplus. The point is that the concept of retiring to me implies that maybe you want to retire from life because you cease to be a contributor to the economy, for example, and in some cases, whether it's voluntary or whether it's involuntary, due to a catastrophic event, you become dependent on the government.
And many people, we've seen many cases of that where a person reaches an age of retirement and they plan the financial their whole life, and at retirement they lose the ambition that they had in life to utilize all their skills and talents and productivity, and in a very short period of time they pass away. Statistically, we probably can track this out. How many years post-retirement?
You would be surprised. I was in a dinner maybe 6-7 years ago in London with a group of friends from the university. Two of them were still working for the British government, and this issue came as a point of discussion, not conversation. And one of them, who works with the let's say the Secretary of Defense, I don't know how they call that. I think it's Minister of War. He asked me. He said, "Javier, do you know how many years past retirement the average British government employee lives. And honestly, I had no idea. I mean, and the number that he gave me, British, shocked me. He said 3 years after retirement. I don't know what the retirement age is for them. Maybe
Probably around 65. Maybe it's a little
probably
younger.
okay. I don't know, but he said 3 years, and I could not believe that. And I said, well, that maybe because people when they retire, they feel that they're not productive anymore. Or maybe I don't know, depression and things begin to accelerate because he's not. When he gets up in the morning, he's not looking forward to do something, to be productive to himself, to his family, and to the community. So I think there's a mental distress that begins to change, his physiological order, and he starts getting sick and so on. So my concern is that people should not be thinking as retirement as the end of something. I see retirement as the beginning of something.
I agree.
That now that I'm retired, that hopefully a person that thinks now it's time to retire, he has enough money. I don't think, and I'm not judging anybody or criticizing anybody. I'm saying that probably because he has the money and the time, it would be best for him or her to go back to school, maybe get a PhD or get a master's or get another degree or join foundations or go out in the world and help other people less fortunate. I don't know. Looking forward to do something different, not to retiring from life. Okay, and watching TV, The Price is Right every day, and so on. I mean, becoming productive. And I think that because as a consequence of what happened in the mortgage crisis in 2008, a lot of people lost money, and now they are wondering, how much longer can I live with what I have, which is substantially less than what they had then.
They may find by re-engaging, they may be forced because they lost to find something to do, to work again, find a new idea.
Exactly, but from 2008 to 2013, we're talking of 5 years that they could have learned another trade, or they could have started a company. Now, 5 years later, when they're running out of money, it's very difficult that they will be hired. Very difficult, especially when unemployment is at the levels that it is now. And imagine how it is in Europe or some places in Latin America. What are they going to do now? Well, my recommendation is that don't stay home and become more depressed. And, get out and do something. I don't know what it is.
Well, you can begin to paint. Maybe think about writing a book.
Yes. That's one thing. I remember my father saying that for a life to be complete, you have had to have a child, planted a tree, and written a book. And people, for example, the baby boomers, they have lived through a lot of things, Okay, and they certainly have a lot of things to tell. Today, to write a book, it's so easy because of technology. The e-books, you can write a book in no time. You don't have to go to a publisher, somebody to. And you can do everything yourself, even with an iPad. I can show you the software that is available for the iPad or even the iPhone. Or Android. Everything. It's so easy to do today.
So you have to bring to retirement a spirit of enlightenment. You have to prepare to continue this life's experience, just channel it a little differently. You have an opportunity to go in a different direction. Maybe find that passion. We talked about playing golf. Many people like to play golf. I don't think it can be the only thing that you do, but if that's what you enjoy, it can be one of the main things you do. Playing tennis. I think the key here is to stay active. physically and mentally. One, for your health. And two, you bring a lot of resources, a lifetime of resources and ideas that maybe you can help in starting a business or helping another person that is starting a business. Be an advisor, be a consultant. You know, we're in an age of ideas. Who better brings a lifetime of idea experience than people nearing retirement?
And and you bring an excellent point. It is these days we see this wave of startups, and they focus on the younger generation. I mean, the kids from 15 to 30 and so on. I don't know if we have spoken about this before, but the VCs, the venture capitalists and the angel investors and everybody and the banks are looking at this segment of people because they consider them to be the more creative, the generators of the big ideas, the Facebooks, the Amazons, and whatever that's true, but let's not forget that there's also people of the older generations that are very creative. And even if they're not creative, it only takes a change of attitude to become creative. I don't believe that only the people that are born, for some reason they have a gene that that favors creativity and they are creative since they are in kindergarten, are the only ones who come up with great ideas. Anybody can do it. It's an attitude.
Especially with the technology that we have today. It takes a little effort for maybe a generation that didn't grow up with the technology to learn it.
Less than you think, Tony.
Yes.
You know the story, and I'm not going to tell it because it's long, of one day I was at the airport waiting to board a plane. I always, and I have it on my iPhone or my phone, I have a reminder, with my screensaver. It's a light bulb that says, why not? And I'm always thinking, why not? Why not do this thing differently? And one day I was at the airport in Miami waiting for an international flight. And I arrived at the airport early. And then I said, why do I have to wait here to board the plane until when the plane arrives? Why can't I board the plane before the plane arrives?
Well, how do you do that? There's not a plane there at the gate yet. So how could you board the plane before there's a plane at the gate?
Well, it depends what you mean boarding and what you are going to board. And this is topic, I don't think it's the moment. I just want to leave that to you. So maybe someday we can talk about ideation and creativity. But I did find a solution. Okay? People think that physically it's impossible. But what is impossible is the way I phrase the question. But there is an answer to that, and it can be done. And we're looking now at a book that I recommend, by the way. It's called The Physics of the Impossible. The things that we're going to be seeing in the future are things that 20 years ago we thought that it was like, completely
futuristic.
Irrational and futuristic, and it's almost around the corner. So people who think the why not or the what if are people who have that attitude from the moment they get up in the morning. So this is something that I encourage people to do. Don't take things for granted. Question everything. Why do I have to? For example, somebody years ago said, why do I have to go to the bank and wait in line to get my money? It's my money. Why do I have to wait 45 minutes? And I have things to do. Somebody said, well, why don't we put the bank outside?
Good point.
And they put an ATM.
Good point.
Good
point.
So
I think this is a great place to wind it down. Why not?
Mm-hmm.
That's a great idea. Just to summarize what we've been talking about, retirement should be a preparation of channeling your life's experience for a new life and getting out there and trying new things, new ideas. Use your creativity. Use the technology to be more creative, to accomplish those things.
Don't give up on the technology. Don't think it's overwhelming. It's a lot simpler than you think. It just takes some time, and you can learn that. It's not something out of this world. But you're asking, let's bring this to a conclusion. And I'll tell you, I think, and we mentioned that before, retirement is the beginning of something. It should not be interpreted as the end of something. It's the beginning of something, number one. And number two, it's the attitude that you have to change. You have to realize that you still have a lot to contribute to society, to your family, to your country. You may not be a fighter pilot anymore. You may not be racing cars, but there's still a lot of things that you can do.
So, everybody, stay active, bring a good attitude, have a long, healthy, happy, and productive retirement.
And always be ready to help somebody.
Always. Why not?
Why not attitude? Yes.
We'll be back after a short break.
We'll be back.
Welcome back, everyone. New topic. Javier, I have a great one for you. A great question for you. Get the blood flowing this morning. Integrity.
Whoa.
What is it? What is it? I'm concerned because I don't see it anymore. I don't understand why. What do you think?
Well, first, maybe we define integrity as the dictionary says it's the behaving the right way, whatever the right way means. But I'm going to throw out that question back to you because, this is the dictionary's definition, but and we could discuss this for hours. But the integrity that we believe in, is it in your genetic code? Are you born with it? Or is it in your DNA, or do you learn it?
Well, I think this is something we can agree on. It's a learned experience.
From where? From whom?
That's a tough question. Do you learn it from within the home or in the environment outside the home?
Well, scientists say that, the critical period of your life is your first 10 years. And that's the time where you're most at home. So I personally believe that if you learn the concept and you learn how to behave with integrity from your home.
Well, I would agree with that. But you know what? I see a lot of families that demonstrate integrity to me. But then the children go out and it's lost. It doesn't mean anything. It's become the standard to not be important anymore. You can't believe almost what someone says. You have to be suspicious. So if they're learning it from the family, where are they learning the changes?
Well, certainly the environment has a lot to do with it. If you come out from a family, where integrity prevails, and you'll go out in the world and you get the negative impact, maybe from your friends, from your classmates, from your teachers, from your professors and university, even from the people in your church, or your church leaders, or whatever the denomination you belong to, or politicians, corporations, judges. Everywhere you could be exposed to the influence of people who are not behaving with integrity.
This is my main concern. This is it exactly. You're exposed to people without integrity. Don't you want to know that the company or the representative that works on your air conditioning system is telling you the truth? Don't you want to know that the mechanic that works on your car is honest and truthful without the thought of only personal gain? Has it become monetary? Is it about money? I guess I'm confused on this because I'm disappointed I don't see it.
Well, certainly you're talking about a utopian world. You're talking, if you want to know, if you want to make sure that your mechanic it's honest and everybody else around you it's honest, Of course, that's a utopian world. Number one, there's no way for you to know, and number two, I think it's impossible for that to happen, at least not in the world today. We see so many failures of integrity are happening around us day after day. We saw the financial crisis in 2008, where integrity was missing in probably every individual that had something to do with that crisis.
But are you telling me then that young people are grabbing onto those parts and they're saying, well, they can do it, so it's good for anybody to do? Is that how far we've come?
You say, is that how far we have gotten? I would have to respond to your concern in terms of it depends what you mean by far. And it also depends on which culture you're looking at, because it's known that the concept of integrity and honesty and so on may differ across cultures. It may not be the same as for some people in other parts of the world. They would not interpret integrity as we do, you and I do here. So it's very difficult to make a judgment on how far we've gotten in terms of integrity. Or
well, let me complicate it a little bit more. I want to bring into the discussion the question of honor. Honor, I define as what you do when no one else is looking. Is it the same as integrity? Are they different? How do you see it?
They are similar, but I don't think it's the same. I think that integrity, it's a very personal, unidimensional principle of behavior. Honor means multidimensional, at least two-dimensional, because I honor something. I honor my president, I honor the Constitution, I honor the flag, I honor...
So it's the action.
So it's an action of giving a recognition to another entity. Whereas integrity, to me, and I'm not an expert on this, I'm not a philosopher, I'm not a lawyer, means my own behavior towards myself, towards my conscience. Okay? So it's different. I think, to me, it's not the same, honor and integrity. They're very similar, and normally, if you're a person of integrity, you will behave with honor.
Honor in my mind, and I agree with what you're saying. I see your point on the two dimensions. In one respect, it's an action. In another one, it's like a personal code that you live by with your principles, that you don't compromise. Your word is your bond, as the old expression goes. But we were just talking yesterday, you and I, about a great example that you saw of how to set an example, how leadership can set an example of honor. Had something to do with, as I recall, the continent of Africa.
Oh yeah, I was reading the other day, and I don't recall, the article, and I don't recall the name of the individual, but we read, in the news and in literature about corruption and fraudulent behavior in I'm not going to say how many, but in many African countries, and it became such a problem that an official from the African Union, and I don't know if that is the exact name, but it's the Organization of African States or some African states, he decided to take action to see how he could reduce corruption and fraudulent behavior among government officials. And he decided to bring out to the public the name of anybody who was involved in some illegal behavior, actions, fraud, corruption, and so on, blackmail. And it looks like because of that, that attitude that he took, that he was going to bring it out to the public, there have been substantial reductions in many countries of corruption by officials, because they fear now that if they do act in a improper manner, their name will be made public and they will probably be taken to the courts.
That's an inspiring story. I like it. I like it because I think we can kind of bring this discussion to a conclusion here on a couple of points that we can agree on. One, environment plays a strong role in affecting integrity. And two, leadership can help a healing process to bring integrity back to a strong principle so that people take this on as a character trait. And this is probably a good way to end this segment. Do you have anything else you want to add in before we close out?
Yeah, the leaders, I mean, their obligation is not only to show people or to tell people how to behave, they have to do it themselves. So they have to set the example so that people follow them.
That probably is a good lesson in all parts of life. Well, we're going to have to take a short break here, and we'll be back with the next segment after a word from our sponsors. Welcome back, everybody. Javier, this is a segment that we get a lot of feedback on or suggestions. This is important stuff.
Or is it?
Well, I don't know. I'm going to let you decide. Around the world, around the country, we have a lot of warning labels. We have a lot of signs. Let me throw a few out. Okay, Javier, here's a warning label on the side of an egg container, an egg carton. The warning label says, may contain egg. Is that important stuff?
The carton says, what does it say?
May contain eggs.
This carton may contain eggs.
Yes.
Okay. Well, here we get into semantics. Okay. What if the carton is not made of paper or of carton? It's made of eggs. Egg white, if you want to have a white carton.
A carton made of egg whites.
Well, they make, I mean, they're making things out of plastic and, edible plastics or whatever, I don't know. So maybe somebody, one of those tree huggers, decided that enough cutting down the trees. Let's use organic material to make the carton. And it makes sense to have a carton made of eggs that contains eggs inside.
Oh, now I see.
But then, that's one interpretation. The other one is, it's a carton of eggs. Now, some eggs may be may be kept in the shelf for longer than expected, and maybe they could be eggs, but they could be chicks.
Ah, yeah.
So, in the first one, is it important to let you know that the carton is made of eggs? I don't know. But imagine, if you open a carton and you find a chick inside, you cannot complain because they told you.
Well, you actually have a bonus. You're getting eggs and chicken. So you have a little bonus there.
Well, maybe some droppings that you may not want to have inside. But, yeah. So it may contain chicks and the eggs. But the issue is the semantics, the way it's written. It's confusing. We don't know whether the carton is made of eggs or there are things.
So this is important stuff?
I have my doubts.
Okay.
I have my doubts on that.
I would have to. It's confusing at best. Okay, Javier, here's a good one for you. On a Japanese-made food processor, the label warns not to be used for the other use. Wow, that sounds important.
Not to be used?
For the other use.
And it's Japanese.
It's a Japanese food
okay,
processor.
so we have to go, think logically, because that's the way they think. Okay? They are very disciplined people. And we know that.
Okay.
So they follow instructions. The instruction says not to be used for the other use. It means that if I use it as a weapon, if I throw it at somebody, I'm complying with instructions, because if I use it as a weapon, I cannot use it for the other use. Right?
This is important.
If I use it as a paperweight, I cannot use it for the other use. So it means that it's a multi-purpose device. You can use it for anything as long as you don't use it for the other use.
So just that one use.
Just that one. Whatever you decide to use it for, you use it. Not for the other use.
That is important.
I think it is. Yes. Remember, discipline. Yeah. I have to follow the instructions to the letter.
Some of these are deep. You have to really think them through.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's part of what they want you to do, to think, to educate the customer.
Well, Javier, here's a good one. As you like to say, to educate the customer on the microwave oven manual. New microwave oven. You have to read the manual first. In the manual it says, do not use for drying pets. That could be important information.
Drying pets, are they insinuating a live pet, right?
Well, they don't say. I don't know many people that have dead pets.
No. Well, somebody may do. But remember, for example, you have gummy bears, right?
Okay.
So there may be some kind of food that it's called drying pets. Maybe it's a dry something in the form of a puppy, okay? But I think what they're telling you is that do not dry a pet that is wet, in the microwave. But if I was going to dry a pet because I'm in a hurry in a microwave, how do I know how long?
That could be complicated.
It is.
Don't they have those settings on?
Well,
there,
that's the point. That's the point today on the new, the modern microwaves. They have standard settings like popcorn, 3.5, defrost, 4.
So you think they might have for drying pets?
No,
2 minutes?
No, they would not dare put it outside, because then people will use it to dry the pets. The point is, if you don't find it outside, that it gives you, how much or how long to use it for pets, don't use them.
So if they don't give you the exact time,
well, it's
better not put your pet in the microwave.
Because you don't know for how long. And besides, I think it's dangerous for the pet.
Might be.
And it also depends. Imagine, I don't know if you can fit, large pets on the microwave. It's also a matter of size and weight.
Yeah, if your dog comes in from the outside, was running through the grass in the yard, and the paws are wet, surely 30 seconds is probably a reasonable time to just dry the paws, don't you think?
Yeah, but again, I think it's dangerous. I don't recommend anybody trying it. Like they say, do not try it at home.
So they
for
don't
professional use only.
So it says do not use for drying pets. They don't say live pets.
Exactly.
So, okay. All right, so that is pretty important.
It is.
Don't put your pet in the microwave.
They're not for pets, right, yeah.
Perfect. Got it. Well, Javier, we've come to the end of the show.
We certainly had a good time, and we hope our listeners did too.
Maybe along the way, someone even learned something.
And remember, if you think something is
important stuff,
let us know, and we will talk about it.
So, until next time, hasta la vista.